Yeah, so great. So today we're actually moving into, in a way, another stage, as we're going to discover quite quickly, um, of, of, of the statement of the person bringing the Bikurim, just to remind us of the overall context, which by this time, I think we're all feeling confident about and understanding that basically we're going through the speech that's made by this person bringing their first fruits after the inheritance of the land of Israel, and that this was what the rabbis chose because the inheritance of the land of Israel is so elemental to the very beginning of the conversation between God and Abraham about going down to a land that's not theirs, going into exile and becoming slaves there, right? If you remember, that's it all began there. So it's beautiful that the Haggadah then chooses the fulfillment of that prophecy with the story of someone bringing those first fruits. And the second point that was so important to us is that it's first fruits. And that first fruits idea is very elemental to the nature of Yisrael, because Yisrael is called the firstborn. And in fact, God said to Moshe, when you go to Pharaoh, this first thing he says to him, tell him, you let my firstborn out. And if not, then I'm going to do away with your firstborn. Okay. So it's like this firstbornness that's really crucial. And that has everything to do with first fruits, because first fruits are the celebration of the new. And that's a way for telling us that this idea of being firstborn isn't some kind of superiority of position, although it may include that on certain levels, but that's not the main point. The main point is that you're connected to the newness of the Creator is creating in every moment. You're connected to that. So, in a sense, you're always being born and then everything comes subsequent to you because you remain in the consciousness of just having been born. So, you're the firstborn all the time. That's the real path of Yisrael. And if you remember, that was the battle between Jacob, Yaakov, and Esau, right? This about this issue, right? Because Esau said, like, I was the first one who came into the world, so therefore it's mine. But no, but that's not what it means to be Bechor on this level. I was the first one born in the mind of our parents, even though I came out last. Things that are thought of first come out last after preparation has been made for them to evolve or to um, emerge, right, from what has preceded them. But the real point is that I remain forever young in that sense, right? Forever fresh. So we explored a little bit about that last time also. And if you remember, right, we saw last time how elemental that is to relationship and how Derech Eretz was lost and how their experience of pressure made it impossible for their lives together to be lives of true intimacy, warmth, and freshness, right? And the sense of the innovative within relationship was gone for them, which is a reflection of slavery. As we saw, it's a slavery of mind, it's a slavery of personality, it's ensconced in what I am, you are what you are, I am what I am. And in a way, we don't really meet except on the biological or mechanical level. And they had lost that inner Vayeda Elohim, if you remember, God knew it because he knew that his knowing was somehow being damaged, his knowing which comes into creation through the knowing of human beings, right? That's how the divine knowing is embodied, so to speak, in this world, is through our knowing. That's the meaning of having had our soul blown into us from God's inner life, right? Which Rashi immediately says, oh, that's our awareness. That's our knowing. They are, and they're communicating. Communicating not because we know how to talk, but communicating meaning we're able to commune with another because we have that level of consciousness which is always open to what's new. And so we're always looking at, oh, that's interesting. That's new. That something new can happen between us that can't happen if I just stay in myself. Let's connect. Right? De'ah and Dibur come together knowing and speaking come together because true daya, true consciousness is an ever-growing phenomenon. It's always growing and expanding. And the means by which it grows and expands in this world, right? I don't know if it's that way necessarily in the divine world, but in this world, it's by interaction, right? By, the word in biology is intercourse, but the word is communication or communing or however it is, right? So God knew, which the rabbis immediately understand, oh, that means that they weren't knowing, because God's knowing was damaged. And so he knew that in their relations, that element of the truly relational was missing. That's the missing, as we saw last time, of derech eretz, of that like being able to be where you are while it's in motion. Dar cha or dar rach. You're dwelling softly. You're not dwelling harshly, meaning you stay in place. You're dwelling softly, right? It's a beautiful word that way. So all of this, like in a sense, and now we're going to begin moving on, but was another level of what this person bringing the Bikurim is talking about. Remember, he started, or she, whoever's bringing, started by talking about, um, started by talking about Lavan and his attempt to alienate the mind from reality. And then he went on to talk about, and uh, they went down to Egypt. They needed to go down to Egypt. Anusapia Dibur. They needed to go down to Egypt because the kind of knowledge that Avraham was seeking needed them to go into a land that's not there. So they begin to mature into a people that knows what it is that needs to be known in order to truly inherit the land, right? I'll come back to the meaning of that. And then Vayagor Sham Bimte Ma'at, if you remember, they didn't want to end up getting stuck there. They just came to sojourn. They understood this as a pathway and a passage into their next reality. And they came down a very small number of people, which was crucial to appreciate how deeply small things contain what is great, especially when that small thing is reduced to the simple love of life and the affirmation of its expansiveness and preciousness. Okay, right? So I'm reviewing you the speech as it was interpreted by the rabbis. And then they became not only a numerous people, right? And they became a unique people, but they also became, a pubescent people. That's really what was described there. If you remember, it was like very, very sexual connotations, like God's in love with us, right? Which is what we do when we want to talk about God's attitude from a human perspective. So we draw on our own biological and mental and emotional capacities. That's how we can talk about God, just like the truth is that's how we can talk about anything, namely how it's processed by our own consciousness, our own biology, our own hormones, etc., etc. Okay, so that was where we got to first level, this love of life and passion for life. Second level, if you remember, was that the Egyptians sought to estrange us from ourselves. They did evil to us. They tried to break us apart. They tried to break us apart. Not the subjugation was just a means, was just the mechanism to get what they wanted. What they really wanted was to undo our sense of identity, because they thought that if our identity is undone, then we will never come into an alliance with some enemy people. Remember, that was really their worry. They're getting too numerous, right? So let's get rid of their ideologies and sense of self. What they didn't realize was that when you get rid of the Jewish people's ideologies and sense of self, they just become passionate about life itself, right? That's literally what went on there. And then we saw how they tried to impose taxations on us, right? Taxation is basically a way of saying whatever you earn, it's mine. I'll give you some of it, but really it belongs to me. That's That's, you're under my control. And they gave us um, work that was pointless, that went nowhere, that had no that productivity about it. There was the ultimate alienation of the work from the worker, right? We even found ourselves supporting Karl Marx for that. But like this is a serious violation, which was all part of the fulfillment of what God told Abraham. Remember that, oh, you're asking for the kind of consciousness which is that which leads to having an inheritance in this land. Okay. This land, I pointed out last time from the Bachai at the very end of the class, this land is a land in which wherever you go, if you sit, right? I quoted this to you last time. Wherever you go, if you sit, you will be accessing higher and higher wisdom and insight. I told you that last time, I think. This Rabbeinu Bachaya at the very end of the class. Correct? I'm on this.
Quietly, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly. That every place Avraham went, talked about this, that every place Avraham went, that's what he would do. God said, Kum hit halech ba'aretz, walk. But remember, it's reflexive walking. Like, it's not about geographical walking. You do go to different places, but the main point is when you get there, you sit and you connect to that which that place offers, and you access higher and higher levels of awareness. That's what truly inheriting this land is about. And for that, you need to be practiced in being in the narrow straits and coming out of them. Because that's just what life is. And this we saw, beginning, we saw it last time, that they called out to God. They called out to God. And the verse they brought was one where the king of Egypt had died. So they saw there's a different possibility for the way the world could be, right? That was the main point. And so they groaned about their enslavement and they cried out about their enslavement. Doesn't even say they talked to God. Just God heard it. And he said, oh my gosh, wow. I don't know if God says, oh my gosh, but he said, oh, this is what I've been waiting for. Not that they're in pain, but that what pains them is enslavement. They're ready to leave, right? They're ready to leave. And he saw it again. I'm just reviewing now, bringing us back up to date. He saw it through the way they related to relationship itself, which is amazing, amazing insight because he remembered the Brit, he remembered the covenant, and Brit is about connection. And he saw that they were sorry about how their connection with their husbands and wives was damaged by this enslavement. Now they're ready for a relationship. That relationship that I felt I wanted with them when I saw them as the pubescent girl, now they're ready. Now they're ready. Now it will be, you know, now it won't be, excuse me for continuing with the metaphor for just a moment, now it won't be abuse. It'll be true relationship because they have grown into a people that has enough of a self-awareness of I want to be fully myself, that slavery is distressing to them. They're already not paying attention to the physical pain. They're now connected to the more existential pain that is bringing them. Okay, so that's where we got to now. This is really, in a sense, brought us to and through, if you remember back from chapter 14 in Genesis and Bereshit, when God said, oh, it's knowledge you're seeking. Knowledge takes processes, okay, to go through, to discover. So just like Adam and Eve, when they ate from the tree of knowledge, oh, you want knowledge? Okay, get out of here. You can't have the fulfillment before you've become what that fulfillment is meant to be an expression of and what you are. As long as you don't want knowledge, you just want to be. So you can just be. You don't have to go anywhere. But if what you want is knowledge, which means uh, an existential internality of your selfhood, which has become something else, in smaller words, that you've really evolved into something and not just have the result. That's what Da'at is about when it's really intimate and authentic to you. So then get out of here. You're going to have to leave the garden and go onto a derech, go onto a path. And as long as you're on a derech, you're connected back. So when Avraham says, "Oh, I want knowledge," so God says, "Well, we've been here before. That means you or your children are going to have to leave in order to discover knowledge. It's just the way it is." But we're going to find out why that's so good today, Bezrat Hashem. Okay? So here we go into the next statement of the Haggadah, right? I just want to, excuse me, just before that, I just want to remind you. So God said they will be in a land that's not theirs. They'll be alienated. Okay, we got that from Lavan and a sense of, disconnection and disassociation. Vavadum, and they're going to be their servants, right? Okay, we got that. We've talked about their work that they are going to do, but it's going to be a work which is meant to undo their sense of self by giving them things which have absolutely no relation to them and have no product and no fulfillment. Vavadum vi'inu otam, God said, and they will be afflicted, which that was what we were learning about last time. The deepest affliction will be when they're impoverished of the possibility of true and profound relationship because there's just so pressured all the time, right? Okay, so that was the inuotam, right? Got it?
Yeah.
And then God says, inuotam, Arbameot Shana for 400 years, which gets kind of skipped here because it's not of interest to us. And then they will go out with, excuse me, and the nation that they will have to serve, I will judge. That's what we're about to come up to today. We're almost there. And that nation which they serve, it's going to be judged. And then they will leave with great wealth. So we are now at the point in the discussion where we're ready to shift in the prophecy that was given to Abraham. We're ready to shift from being afflicted to God beginning to take them out and come to understand, and that's what we're going to come to understand also today. We're come to understand this judgment which God sent upon them, right? To use biblical language, meaning that he did all those plagues. Like, what was the deal with all those plagues? I mean, why not just, I don't know, make the Egyptians temporarily blind, like he did in Stone, and let them leave while they're temporarily blind. And, like, what is this thing about having to visit judgments upon them? Okay, that's elemental. And as we're going to discover today, it's elemental to the process of freedom, as everything about we've been learning is. You can't be free unless you value relationship. You can't be free unless you value freshness. You can't be free unless you value fulfillment. You can't be free unless you value your identity. And you can't be free unless you are authentic to it. Right? You see what we're building here? You see how it's like, this is like an amazing way in which the Haggadah, little by little, is teaching us the ethos of freedom. Okay, and now I think we're ready to listen to the next line. Here's the next line. This person bringing the Bikurim says, "Vayotzienu Hashem miMitzrayim." God took us out of Egypt. Biyad chazaka, v'izron etuya, uv'mora gadol, uv'otot uv'moftim. God took us out of Egypt with a strong hand, an outstretched arm, intense reverence or intense fear, but we'll obviously explore that. Or better, and with signs and with wonders. Now, this is the Bible, right? So every word is going to mean something here, okay? And that's exactly what now the Haggadah is going to open up for us, what each of these words means. Okay, so the first one is Vayotzienu Hashem miMitzrayim. God took us out of Egypt. And that means that God took us out of Egypt. I know, like, what do you think I was thinking? It's like, Well, the fact that he doesn't just say Vayotzienu mimitzrayim, but rather says, I mean, after all, he's already said Vayishma Hashem et kolenu. God heard our voices, he saw our affliction and our work and our pressure. So we know the subject of the sentence is God. So he could have just gone on and said Vayotzienu mimitzrayim without repeating the subject. I mean, that's what you do, like I came in this morning and I sat down to teach and had a cup of coffee and, looked at you. And I don't have to keep saying, and I had a cup of coffee. We don't need to keep repeating the subject. So why does this person repeat the subject of the sentence? Oh, you have no idea how important that is. You have no idea how important it is. Well, I'm going to tell you how important it is in my way, right? This is the way of the Haggadah. I'm going to tell you how important it is by telling you more things which you won't know why they're so important, right? But Bezrat Hashem, today we will explain something of it. Vayotzienu Hashem mimitzrayim. Okay, here I'm going to tell you, the Haggadah says, why it's so important that it was spoken this way. Lo yedei malach. This did not happen through an angel. V'lo yedei saraf. It didn't happen through a seraph, which is different than an angel. I'll give you a little bit of an explanation of that. V'lo yedei shaliach, and not by some emissary, even though he definitely sent his emissary, Moshe, but that I want you to please not associate your leaving Egypt with any of them. I don't want you to become I don't want you to get the wrong idea of what just happened. And I'll explain to you what the wrong idea would be in a moment. Let's just read the text first. Ella HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'chvodo v'atzmo. But rather it was the Holy One, blessed be He, in all of His glory, in His very self. That's a big thing to say about God. And all of His glory, we're used to that. God's glory appears here, God's glory appears there. Vayera Kvod Hashem, like the glory, the clouds of glory. We got all kinds of things with glory, which is an external expression. Yeah, it was the external expression and the internal reality. Uveatzmo. That's rare that we say about God. It was He Himself. Okay? So we, not angel, not seraph, not messenger, but rather God in His glory and Himself, like you'd say, mamish, really Him. Okay, all right. I mean, I was willing to buy into that from the no. You have all kinds of wrong ideas. I know it, and I want to make sure that you get this one right, and it's super important. And we say it here, and we continue. This is all like one section. It's actually longer than any of the other explications of the words of the person bringing the Bikurim. This is the longest thing we say when we take just 3 words and look what happens now, right? First of all, I have a proof for this, as it says, Shnei Amar, and I passed over the land of Egypt that night, and I smit the firstborn of all the firstborns in Egypt, humans and animals, and all of their gods. I did judgments upon. Ani Hashem. That's me. That's me, God. Okay? Like, don't think it's something else going on here. That's me. Then we go on again, and we do the same thing again. It's like super important. Ve'avarti beretz Mitzrayim balayla hazeh. It's me who went over Egypt. That was very interesting. Ve'avarti beretz Mitzrayim. I passed over. There's something, so to speak, geographical about it. I passed over, like moved around over Egypt, right? Va'avarti means I passed over. Balayla hazeh, on this night. On this night. That's interesting, on this night, isn't it? It was on that night, wasn't it? It should have said, in Hebrew, it should have said, just like in English, Vavarti, it's past tense, right? Vavarti beretz Mitzrayim balayla hahu is really what it should have said in proper Hebrew. I passed over Egypt on that night, right? No. I passed over Egypt on this night, okay? That's interesting. And then it becomes the future tense because actually when it's being spoken, he's talking about something he's going to do. So I'm confused about the tenses here. Good. I'm glad you're confused about the tenses. We want you confused about the tenses. It's really important to see the way the Bible plays with our minds in order to get us out of the way we usually think, which is linear. Well, if it's past tense, tell me about past tense. If it's future tense, could you please speak in the future tense? No, I will speak in all tenses. And there's a very important reason for that. It is because it's me, and I am not in time. Okay, that's nice for you. And what does that have to do with me? I'm trying to tell you what it has to do with you, right? But we're going to, with God's help, get to the bottom of this. And again, the Haggadah says, this is the thing I was talking about when I said it was God and nothing else. It's this verse. It's this part of the verse. Because you might have thought it was because it said at the end of it, Ani Hashem. It's me, God. No, God says it was me, God, all the time. Avarti beretz Mitzrayim. That's interesting that you're in motion, meaning space matters to you. True, space matters to me, but time, balayla hazeh, it's this time. And it has something to do with this time, right? This night and Mitzrayim. It's all of Mitzrayim here. It's all of Mitzrayim. Why does God have to travel through all of Egypt? What is this? What is this? It's very direct, right? It's got to be there to do it, okay? It's very direct here. There's something here specifically about Mitzrayim that is somehow and the antithetical or, in contradistinction to God doing what he's doing. Okay, let's watch again. How is the Haggadah? Make sure we're getting this right. Ani velo saraf. It's me. It's not some seraph, right? Uv'chol Elohei Mitzrayim. Excuse me, I skipped something. Ani, right? Avarti beretz Mitzrayim. Keti v'chol Ani velo malach. V'hiketi kol b'chor beretz Mitzrayim. Ani velo saraf. Uv'chol Elohei Mitzrayim aseh shvatim. Ani velo shaliach. Ani Hashem. Ani hu velo acher. So this whole verse is telling us me, right? Avarti beretz Mitzrayim v'layla hazeh. Me and not an angel. Next, and I will kill, or I will smite all the firstborns of Egypt. Me and not a seraph. So now we're making distinctions between what we might have thought. And I will do in all of the gods of Egypt. Ani velo hashaliach, me and not my messenger. Right? Ani Hashem, ani hu velo acher. It's me, God, me and no other. I guess we had some idea that something else besides these three could have been two. Yep, you did. And it's not him either. Okay, who's that? Acher. Acher. What's acher? Acher means other. It's me, not other. What's other? Other. Okay. All right. Let's stop kidding around and get down to business here. So, what is this? Well, in a way, you more than just about anyone in the world should know why this is so important, because it's the way we began our whole series. And here we are, in a sense, coming to a culmination, because we're coming to this culmination of the statement of the person who's speaking to us with the Bikurim, because this is his final line. Okay, this is it. We're done. Yay! Well, that being done must come to be some full completion, right? And we got a few things we haven't taken care of yet, right? Remember, we already did that they're going to serve, they're going to be the land not theirs, they're going to serve, they're going to be afflicted, right? And then God's going to take them out, okay? Right? After 400 years, and he will do, judgments upon the people who harmed us. Okay, so that's where we are right now. And that's apparently some kind of a culmination. It is. It is. Let me explain to you how. It's the culmination the way it was at the very beginning. If you remember, our very first class was about the Ten Commandments and why it says that God in the very first commandment says, Anochi Hashem Elokecha, Asher Hotzeticha me'eretz Mitzrayim. I am the God who took you out of Egypt. I don't expect you to remember that first class. I'm just reminding us for the purposes of the wholesomeness of what we've been doing, right? We want to get there, knowing that it's God who took us out of Egypt. Correct? That's what's going to happen. The first thing he's going to say to us when we get to Mount Sinai, I'm the God who took you out of Egypt. Why is that so important? How about I'm the God who created the world or something even bigger? I'll tell you why. And then you'll tell me if you agree.
Okay.
How's that deal?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll tell you. Because because this is what it's all been about. It's all been about our being able to come to a relationship of communing, of connection, in which in which in which there'll be a fulfillment of what I declared at the very beginning of what a human being can be, and that is in my image. What would that be to be in my image? After all, God is infinite, boundless, beyond time and space. And what would that be? What would that be to be in his image? So here's a suggestion. Be in my image is to be in ongoing affirmation and love of life, creativity, existence, giving, receiving, just open, new, um, ever changing, ever changing. And let me tell you why that's in my image. Because you, as creatures of boundary, who live within the physical space of your bodies and the physical space of your minds, which, although I'm not a believer in consciousness and mind being a product of our biology, but nevertheless it dwells within our biology. That's something very important. We're receivers of some kind of a higher consciousness, which becomes associated with our specific um, purpose, makeup, which fills a very particular niche in creation, etc. Okay, so yeah, well, how do you, with all those boundary conditions, how do you touch my being? Well, if I'm infinite, be infinite. How how does that work? Be a creator with me in an ongoing, open creativity in which you're forever discovering, forever uncovering, and even innovating things which the Zohar says God Himself, so to speak, didn't think of. When an innovation comes out of this world, a Torah innovation is what the Zohar is talking about, but Torah innovation means a higher and profounder and broader awakening to the nature of what is. That's what Torah is really about. God takes that, it flies up through the angels, through the seraphs, all the way up to God Himself, who takes it and really makes love with it, kisses it, right? That goes up there. Why does that go up there? Because that's me. That's what this is about. That there be a forever innovating creature, which now I have a deep relationship with because he and she are like me in that infinity. But it's an infinity which only is of uh, of that sort because it is indeed bounded by your specific personality, your specific identity, your specific reality, etc., etc. That's very different than just drop your identity, drop everything that is about this bounded life, and just connect to the divine infinite. No, 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 no. Don't do that. You'll have plenty of time for that later. Right now, you're here to be here. Okay. And the way that that happens here is what I just described to you. Let me give that a different language. You're forever in a reality of narrow straits. But from those narrow straits, discovering the next expanse. Okay? And then, take it from me, many decades at the job, whatever the next expanse is, it's the narrow straits of the next one. Narrow straits is the word Egypt, Mitzrayim. Too bad people only know the word Egypt. Mitzrayim literally means the narrow straits. It actually means the boundary conditions. That's literally what it means. I mean, couldn't have picked a better place to teach this teaching from, except from people's acceptance of the narrow straits that they need to be in. We weren't there just because, you got to go through it and get you out. No, no, no. This is it. This is an existential description of the nature of the human condition. You're in narrow straits and you are leaving. And you're in narrow straits and you are leaving. And you're in narrow straits and you are leaving. Ooh, that's so painful and tragic. For some, perhaps. Not for us, because that's how we connect to God. But it seems so futile. No matter how high I get, it's just nothing compared to. I wanted to really just get there. Oh, you're Esau. Esau. Just speed me to the goal. Speed me to the goal. And let me just get there, okay? And live my life quietly and comfortably on some mountaintop in the Himalayas. Could you just I'll be the happiest man in the world. No kids, no wife, no house, no troubles. Happiest man in the world. They'll hook me up to a machine and I'll discover that I'm the happiest man in the world. I mean, okay. Who said that's the point? Is that the point? No. Okay? So this is the elemental primary depiction of what it means to be a true human being in the image of God. Has De'ah, has Dibur, remember, has consciousness, which is an interconnective consciousness, right? That's Rashi, about what God breathed into us. And he breathed that into us because that is the way in which we can commune with him. You see, you can only commune if you're not other to the God with whom you're communing. It's a bad theology to talk about God was something else. I praise him. I serve him. I do everything for him except love. I also love him, in the way that you love something that's so beyond. Yeah, but isn't there another kind of love, like intimate and love making? No, don't be irreverent. I'm not being irreverent. I'm actually talking about what I think God actually asks us for, which is dat Elohim, which is to come to know him. Well, you've seen that word. It was actually the first time it appeared in the Torah. It had to do with something far more intimate than just intellectual knowledge. It had to do with a love knowledge. That's the Rambam. If you remember, the more you know, the more you will love. That's the only reason the Rambam says, my mind says, that I'm teaching you anything. The only reason I'm teaching you anything is that your love should be more intense. Well, what kind of love are you talking about? Oh, the Rambam says it's a love like a mad love for a woman that you just can't get her out of your mind. Constantly the song is singing about her. Well, Rambam, cool it, man. I mean, well, why should I? Didn't King Solomon write the Song of Songs? I mean, well, I don't know, Rambam. Maybe you didn't read the Art Scroll translation. It absolutely obliterates any erotic implications. Okay, too bad, Rambam, you didn't read the Art Scroll. It's no, I read it in the original. It looks pretty passionate to me. Okay, so that's why the final statement is me and not other. Me and not other. I'm going to go backwards now. Me and not other means it's me and not other. Elohim achirim is other gods, which the rabbis say other gods, like gods that people turn into idols or gods that are idolatrous. They are gods that are other to you. They're not other to me. I mean, compared to me, they're nothing. You wouldn't say Elohim achirim, they are other to God, as if we're in some way on the same plane to be compared to one another. This is the Mechilta. The rabbis say, no, they're other to you. They're estranged from you. That's what people who are idolatrous do. They place everything that is great about man onto an idol, and then they just, uh, like intensify the volume. Like now it's even much, much more, and become more and more emptied of their own powers, which they associate with that. And I am more and more other to that idol. I mean, compare. I mean, that I am nothing compared to Zeus. I mean, like, look at us. I mean, have you seen his lightning rods? I mean, forget it, man. Like I know, like, and everything becomes other, otherwised, right? Everything gets turned into estrangement, right? So no intimacy, but a profound reverence. Now, don't turn me into acher, okay? It's me, ani. You also use that word. It's ani. There's a self here, okay? I'm starting from the end. So I'm getting rid of the gods of Egypt because I'm getting rid of the gods of limitations. I'm getting rid of the gods who you turned into bounded entities that have nothing to do with us as human beings. I'm getting rid of that. That's Uv'chol Elohei Mitzrayim Yaseh Shvatim, Ani v'lo shaliach, Ani Hashem, Ani v'lo acher. Not some emissary of mine, like these gods claim in certain types of, you know, uh, polytheisms. I don't have a. It's not mine when I emissaries who took you out of Egypt, Moses or some other god or whatever. It's me and no other. No other meaning no other, but also no other, no, that is not one that is other to you. Okay, it's me. Okay? I hope we get that clear. Next, I'm going backwards. Mavarti Beretz Mitzrayim, it's me, remember, it's me and not a malach. It's me and not a saraf. Okay? Let me explain now those terms to you, and you'll really get the picture for this. A malach is amazing, as they say in English. Really, a malach is an amazing, powerful spiritual entity that has great things to do for us, right? It's I do not mean in any way to belittle angels, but but there's actually a considerable discussion in some of our early authorities: who's greater, man or angel? There's a considerable discussion and a fascinating discussion. The Maharal spreads it out on the battle between Jacob and the angel, right? Like, what is that really a battle of? And why does the angel hit him in the leg? Gee, what was that about? Well, I can tell you exactly what it's about. It's about the following. In Zechariah, right? I'm right about that. I think it's in Zechariah. I'm almost positive. Zechariah, it says that God spoke to the prophet saying, I will make you mahalchim bein ha'omdim ha'ele. I'm going to make you a mover among these who are stationary. It's a verse, I will place you mahalchim bein ha'omdim ha'ele. Okay? Was it what? Well, I'll tell you what I'm talking about. You will be in motion as opposed to they, the angels, who are stationary. You'll be walking around and they'll be stationary. Interesting. I mean, Malachim seem to get around. I mean, they've got wings for something. Yes, they do. They do. But in essence, they are stationary. How so? Because the nature of a malach is that the malach is sent on a mission. If it's like a higher level angel, it may be that they stay around for the entire length of creation, but they have very specific style missions. Okay? If it's a regular malach, they get one mission, they do it, and then they're gone. They leave existence. They just come in for that. That's it. That's all they do. That's all they do. It can be very great things, and not against, you know, not against drafting them for our help, but we should know that they're being drafted for our help, which means that they're here in a way to serve us. Okay, because why? Because we, in our forever open and forever innovative, we are in motion, we're in movement, and that is closer to God than the one who is Stationary. Yeah, yeah. That's why he goes for our leg.
Mm.
I will weaken you in your superiority. Okay, so you better be careful about, the way you behave with malach. But the point is that a malach, an angel, God has to say, okay, now I'll tell you why this is so, 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 so important. Because if you had been taken out by an angel, let's say that God sent an angel to take us out of Egypt. What's wrong? Why does he have to trouble himself? The answer is because if we would be taken out of Egypt by an angel, we would be taken out on an angelic level. What does an angelic level mean? It would mean the following. There were very special geopolitical circumstances that this angel arranged so that you would be able to leave the slavery of Egypt and become free men. Yippee-i-yo. Now you don't have that despot um, controlling you anymore. We are liberated. Vive la, whatever, what is it in French? Vive la
Liberté.
liberté. That's what we've been singing. We've been great until we would have liberté for what? And then you find Europe collapsing under the weight of its own liberté. So we want to be liberal, so free, so let everyone come. Like, we don't really believe in anything except liberty. Well, you're going to find out what happens when the only thing you believe in is liberty. It gets taken away very easily. Okay, but we would have been liberated. And then we would always forever be looking back and saying, thank, even thank God, not knowing that we were taken out by an angel. It's great that we were liberated from Egypt. Back then, in that day, history. It's part of our history, it's our heritage. It is not part of your history. There's no such thing as history on this level, God says. It happened on this day. Which day? This day. Well, I mean, it's 2,000 years later. This day. It hasn't happened yet. This day. I hope you're getting the point. It's always this day that you're leaving a narrow strait for the greater expanse. If your mind is a mind of hithalech, in which you're forever opening to the new teachings, the new possibilities, on whatever level you live, it doesn't have to be me and my intellections, it can be you and your loves, it can be you and your connection to another, it can be whatever level it's happening on. If it's in movement and fresh, it means that it remains a brit, which, if you remember, I said Bereshit comes from the very word brit. It's a fiery covenant. It's alive. I'm just looking for it to be alive because in it being alive, you're with me. And that's what it's about. Okay? We are on a quest together, discovering, okay, on many different levels. If you were taken out by an angel, you would have had an angelic attitude, which is we're out, things are stable, we've been liberated, good, you know. We're on the Liberty Bell in Philadelphia. We've been liberated from what? From the oppressor. Great. Now what do we do? Have fun. Disney World. I mean, it's going to be great. Cartoons on Saturday morning. I mean, like, what could be better? Ice cream. I mean, okay. What am I supposed to do with this? Oh, wait. Let's make that the ethos. We are liberators. Okay, great. Anyone who is the underdog, we will come to liberate. And it comes into like where we are today. That's the only thing. That's the ethos. Liberate those whose position seems to be of a less advantageous from the privileged. It's all about liberation. Maybe it's all about some higher value which the liberation is liberating you to live out. I'm not going to get into what that might be right now because that's not our subject. The point is that it's this ongoing availability to always be leaving Mitzrayim. It's always on this day. And that's why you must know that it's me who did it, because that's what I do. I am the infinite one. And now you participate with me in that infinity. If you would think an angel took you out, that means that you would be interpreting it as an act of stabilization. Let's get rid of the oppressor so you can stabilize into being liberated. Or if it was a saraf, then you would have thought that it's about the that firstborn, the experience of me having become important by virtue of my having done something. We did it. It's not that either. Okay? It's not the malach, it's not the saraf. There are other interpretations we could go with the saraf, but right now I want to make the main point, right? And I will do judgments with all those gods of delimitation, all the gods of delimitation. I will do judgments with them. Gee, nobody likes delimitation. Oh boy, do people like delimitation, limitation. Boy, do they like it. It gives them security. It's all God. It's nothing about me. I don't have anything to do here except get rid of myself. No, no, no. Oh, it's God of, the otherness. We like otherness, the numinous otherness. Yeah. I mean, that's true, but it's not the essential teaching I want you to have. Okay. Of course, I'm way beyond anything that you can be in my level, right? But it's not about that. It's about meeting me here in the nature of who you are, what you love, what you dedicate to, how open you are to the newness of an unfolding creation, how much you participate in that, how much you serve those initial values in which I embedded creation with, of love, of care, of unity, of passion, of, of justice, of righteousness, of purity, of giving. How much are you? How much are you there with me as those themselves, as unfold in the myriad ways in which they unfold, and of understanding and of wisdom? These all matter to me. These all matter to me. But they matter to me in their unfolding through you, and there we can be together in that, in our joint dedication to their realization. It is so important to the Baal Haggadah here to understand why the subject of the sentence needed to be repeated. Vayotzienu miMitzrayim wouldn't have been good enough. He took us out of Egypt. It's Havaya who took us out of Egypt. What does that word itself mean? Yud and Hey and Vav and Hey. The one who was forever bringing into being. That's who took us out of Egypt. Not Elohim, not the God of judgment and rigor, but the God of compassion in the deep sense of compassion, like we discussed, I believe, in the past, that it's the name of Rachamim, the name of compassion, which comes from the root that is the same root for womb, the birthing God. That's who took you out of Egypt, the birthing God, who births out of the narrow straits, just like every baby's born out of the narrow straits. That's who took you out of Egypt. That's the real sense of compassion, as you'll read about in my book. Those of you, it's like that's what it's. So Vayotzienu Hashem, we had to say it again, right? Because we needed to emphasize that it was God Himself and not any of these other possibilities. Otherwise, we would have thought it was some fantastic and amazing story of liberation, which it isn't. It's a story of the ongoing quest, which we have now been crowned with as a people. Avraham is rejoicing because his name, Avraham, has the same anagram as Bihi Baram, the one who's always in creation, in their self-creation. Avraham is saying, what awareness would they have that would make it possible for them to truly inherit the land in a way that won't, namely the physicality, the limitations, the specific boundaries, without it losing contact with you and your infinity? Perfect that they have a specific land, which I tell you now, Hithalech, go through it and sit in each of its places and connect to its higher awarenesses that are specifically connected to the local place in which you sit. Boy, that's a pretty That's a pretty profound combination of realities. I mean, the infinite coming into the physical and reality. Well, this is how it happens when you are forever opening. Okay. Oh man, there's going to be people. That's an inheritance. Okay, that's the consciousness necessary to inherit who I am, and it will come of inheriting this land, but in its truth and in the depth of what this land is meant to be. And then this land will become a model for all humanity, discovering their particular place and the forever openingness that knowing your place within the boundaries empowers you to have. It's not some floaty, disconnected universalism. It's a nexus, it's a meeting point between the infinite and the finite. And this, I'm saying it in a conceptual language, but it's what you meet every moment that you're open to the teaching of the moment, every moment that you're open to the newness that's making available to you, every moment that you try to sing a song and put into those notes the fullness that reveals through those notes that there's a reality that is so far beyond those notes and yet would only be known by virtue of those notes. Because otherwise, there's no knowing. There might be intellectual knowing. Oh, I know about that. But it won't be da'at. It won't be an intimate knowing. It won't be you there experiencing it in its fullness, right? You understand? This is what we're talking about. It really becomes ultimately a messianic vision that the whole world will be filled with de'ah of God, which the Rambam says de'ah with God, that we will be aligned with His awareness and consciousness. Do you see how the Haggadah has guided us into knowing this about the nature of what we are growing towards and what Chevut is? Yeah, so that's where, and this has now arrived, and why it is so important for the Haggadah to stay on this point and spell it out in a way which we never had before in any other statement. We always had the statement and a proof text, statement, proof text. Here it's statement, proof text, deeper understanding of that proof text, really deep understanding of that proof text. This is it. This is it. This is like it that now prepares us to be the people that will receive the 10 utterances of God, which begin with Anochi Hashem Elokecha Asher Hotzeticha Me'eretz Mitzrayim. I'm the God who took you out of Egypt. But I hope you understand that doesn't mean now you're just kind of indebted to me for the good things I did to you, but rather it means you're invited to identify with me in that being an ongoing realization in your own life. Right? Okay, so questions, comments? Yes, a hand has gone up.
Do you also say in the paragraph it jumps from the past tense to the future tense?
Because we're talking about something which is ultimately is timeless. So it's I have passed. You see, Hebrew plays that. So it's not like a strong proof. It's a weak proof. It's just because Hebrew plays around with these tenses, and especially when God is talking, He often talks in the past tense about something He's yet to do. But that's the point. That God does that. People generally in the Bible don't do that. Right, but okay, so like that's overarching on the verse. But the specific of the verse, that it's Balayla Hazeh, on this night, right? That stays with us forever.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Yeah, go ahead.
The ongoing quest and the every moment, it's like an invitation to be conscious and listen and hear and to connect and to align with the creator of the universe every moment, and to really receive and just be in partnership with him every moment,
Very much.
because he's doing, as I say, this day,
Yeah.
which is ongoing. That's why we say the Shema every day. And when we read that third paragraph where it says, I took you out of the land of Egypt.
That's right.
So that's
Exactly.
when we connect and see ourselves coming out of Egypt every time when we read that. That's what this means. Oh, wow. I get it.
Thank you. No, don't forget it. That's actually what we're supposed to remember. But yeah, beautifully put. Beautifully put summary of that. And if I might point out, not only in the Shema, right, which I understand, in a sense why you go there, and in a way, you're sort of wondering out loud what the recollection of taking us out of Egypt has to do with God as one. Well, now you can really see it. God is one is not meaning that there's only one God, but there's God is one. That means I am part of him and with him. That means to remember Egypt always, to remember leaving Egypt always, because that's how I am communing with him in my forever leaving Egypt, forever leaving the narrow straits.
Mhm.
Right, beautifully.
Because as you said, the birthing, when the baby comes out, it comes from a narrow strait. So that's what Egypt is, a narrow
Absolutely.
strait.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And in a way, the very beginning of the story um, is a precursor because of that, because um, you know, Pharaoh thinks, well, I'll get the what's something I let it called in English? I'll get the midwives on my side. I'll get the midwives on my side. And as soon as the baby's born, they'll do something so that the mother will think it was a stillbirth, right? I'll get them on my side. They'll do it, right? What they say to him is may even be actually accurate. Before we get there, they've already given birth. You don't understand who you're dealing with. You're dealing with a people for whom the narrow straits are just an opportunity to grow, not a place to get caught. They didn't come down here to dwell. They came down here to sojourn, and that continues to this day. It's not people that get stuck in the birth canal, like you're trying to get them stuck there. It doesn't work that way. These people are animals. They're like beasts. It's just like,
It can work.
yeah, okay. I want to point out something also on the level of avoda, because you also pointed towards Shema Yisrael, and I think that's a good thing. But the very first blessings we say in the morning, Birkot HaShachar, Birkot HaShachar, which is usually translated as the blessings of the dawn. But it's important to recognize that the word Shachar has another meaning to it, which is the blessing, which is the quest. Eli atava shachareka is a verse in Psalms and Tehillim which says, "You are my God, and I will seek you." Well, how does dawn connect to seeking? Because only those who are forever in the dawn are seekers. It's always dawning upon me. We say it in English. It's always dawning upon me something. Wow, it's a new day. It's the dawn. Who relates to the day as a new day? The one who's on a quest, because the new day is a new opportunity to go beyond where I was yesterday. Those who seek to be stable and ensconced, the new day is a threat. It's a threat. It's filled with fear. There are people who face the new day with fear because I just got yesterday was a good day, like I had some stability and my emotions were all right. Now it's oh my gosh, a new day. I wish I could stay in yesterday. Yesterday. It's like, yeah, but but thinking of those as Birkot HaShachar, the blessings of the quest, mean that they are actually empowering you to be on the quest. That's what it means, Pokeach Ivrim. It's not, oh, thank you for opening my eyes. Oh, thank you for giving me clothes. Oh, thank you for giving me the ground. It's not that at all. It's like, wow, what a set of what a set of
Yes.
of of materials you gave me for me to be on my quest. More importantly, these are what the quest is. It's me being sensitive to what's around me. Pokeach Ivrim. It's me being able to stand up tall and not be weighed down. It's me being able to dress how I choose to dress today. It doesn't have to be yesterday's clothes, right? Women are the best at that.
Mhm.
Um, it doesn't, it's like it doesn't mean me standing in one place. It means me walking forward, right? It means me being given power by you. To those who are become bored, literally, tired and bored. Etc. You understand? Like if you look at it that way, it's like wow, each of these things is actually the. It's not just the equipment. It's actually a physical reflection of the fact that I am a creature of quest.
Mm.
That I have my eyes open. That can stretch and stand up tall, meaning that I have a vision higher than just having my nose to the ground. Get it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's very
sure.
good. So I think it's beautiful to come to this point and acknowledge, realize, and accept that narrow straits are part of, like, it's a constant part of a growing process, and not be scared of that,
Yeah.
because I feel that sometimes the human being is scared to face to enter a narrow place. You know, like you always want to be like good and happy, but personally, when I accept that the narrow straits are part of the growth and we're always going to be in that quest and that process, and have this as a reminder that Hashem's always going to be there to help us coming out. It's amazing. It's like the light within the tunnel constantly. It's not that, I don't know, that's how I see it, and I'm very grateful because coming from a place where you're trying just to avoid those narrow streets because you don't know what you're gonna face there, sometimes can be challenging. But now that you know that He's always there to take you out from Egypt over and over, over and over again, I think it's very beautiful, and I think it's part of a medicine for a lot of people.
Yeah, yeah, me too. Wow, thank you for sharing that. Okay, be blessed. See you next week. Our final class is next week. Our final
Thank
class
you
for
so
this
much.
season. Don't worry.
Really? Wow.
There's a lot more that I gotta do.
Yeah.
Yay.